Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon again to everyone who involved in these sharing sessions. I know it's weekend and it's on Sunday. I believe most of you are at home, but we in Johor Bahru in JB, okay, we are working on Sunday until Thursday. So it's weekdays for us, right? So don't worry because this session is recorded. And yep, Zuting is there. She is my student. She is helping me with the attendance link in the chat box. So for those who are already here, please sign in the attendance link. Okay, please complete the attendance link, right? Okay. So without further ado, thank you for being with us here today. My name is Nurul Farhana Jumaat. I'm a senior lecturer from School of Education, University Technology Malaysia. And for those of you who didn't know that this is one of the sessions, we call it a sharing sessions for EduTech PG Bootcamp program organized by the Creative Multimedia Panel and also Site Research Group. So those who are from educational technology, academic program, who are taking PhD or master studies, you are in our research group. Okay. So yep, our session will be more or less will be about 1 hour. It's a 1 hour sessions. Okay. So today's sessions is about conducting a pilot study. We will be talking about reliability and also validity. However, I think 1 hour is not enough for me to cover both research method or research approach, which are qualitative and also quantitative. Okay? In this session, I will cover only quantitative reliability and also quantitative validity. Okay, how to validate and how to analyze the reliability if you are conducting a quantitative research approach. So I'm very sorry because I think that it's not enough time for me to cover both research methods. Maybe we can plan next time. Okay. Sorry, Michael Bay, it's too bad. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. We can assign a new session just to focus on qualitative research method or qualitative research approach. Okay, all right. So let's just move on. Okay, without further ado, this is the link. Okay, we will upload the recorded video and also slide presentation at this website. Okay, your friend Yuting already share with you on the chat box, so you can go to that link later on because I will upload this recorded video on the website. Okay, sorry, Associate Professor Dr. Zaleha will help me to upload to the website. Okay, and also the slide presentations. Okay, I will share with her the slides and she will help me to upload the slides in the website. Okay. And for attendance, please fill up the attendance form. All right, as I've mentioned earlier, this talk I will cover only about. Waalaikumsalam.
Please,
Yes.
we don't know. Will you share the attendance?
Yes.
Okay.
Zuting, can you please share the attendance link in the chat box? All right. Okay. Okay. So I will just cover on quantitative part. Okay, the reliability and also the validity of quantitative research method. So the outline for today, okay, I will share with you the definition behind the pilot study. And also I will share with you on how to determine a sample size for pilot study. Next is about defining validity and also forms of validity Last but not least, defining reliability and also forms of reliability. It's quite a straightforward point of topics. Okay. Okay, first of all, pilot study. I'm not sure whether you have conducted your pilot study or not. Okay, I believe those who are here today who are in the midst of conducting pilot study or who plan to conduct pilot study for their research. So basically, pilot study is a research study that tests the feasibility or the viability. What does it mean by feasibility or the viability? Okay, it is the practicality of a method that will be employed in your larger study later. Larger study, larger study here means your real study. Okay, so this is the first step for you to test out whether your measures, your test is feasible or not for your real study. Okay, I hope you're clear on that. Okay, so it's really helpful to justify or to test the process of your real study. So it's very crucial for you to conduct pilot study before you conducting the real study. Okay, so these pilot studies help researchers save time and avoid issues in the future. So it serves like a dress rehearsal. Do you know, like dress rehearsal, the final rehearsal before you go to the war, before you conduct the real one? Okay, so it will save time, believe it or not, if you conduct the pilot study before conducting a real study. It will save time and it saves cost, and it is to avoid issues like later on when you have viva sessions. For PhD students, you will have viva sessions. Okay, the examiner will first uh, when the examiner examine your chapter 3, okay, he will ask about your research design, your sample and populations, and he will also ask a lot about pilot study and also data from your pilot study. So it is a very important part for you to address in your thesis. Okay. Okay, please bear in mind that pilot studies are not intended to test the hypothesis or your research questions of your real study. Okay, it is not intended to do so. Okay, but pilot study are meant to assess the feasibility, the practicality in terms of what? In terms of checking your research instruments, whether it's valid or not, whether it's reliable or not. Later on, we will discuss about the validity and reliability of your instruments. And in this talk, I will just focus on the validity and reliability of the research instruments. But pilot study also confirm on any other procedures in research methodology like data collection procedures.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, yes.
Please, sorry, when you define pilot study as the feasibility and validity of the method, and now you mentioned the instrument, is there a difference between the instrument and the method? Because maybe my method is quali, that is quantitative research, and my instrument is PLS or in vivo. So please, what is the difference between that method and instrument that you mentioned? Thank you.
Okay, the instruments, I will discuss about this later when we come to validity and reliability of the instruments. But in this talk, I will just focus on quantitative data collections, quantitative research method. Yeah, Harun? Okay, is that okay?
Yes, I get you. I get you right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so it's about that, okay? Pilot study is about that for you to check out your instruments. Maybe it's a training session where you ask the few participants about their experience during data collections. Maybe you've come across several issues during pilot studies, then you want to make some fine tuning, then you can do that in your real study. So it is like the initial practice of data collection procedures. Okay, pilot study is all about that. But the most important part is the validity and the reliability of your research instruments. It will be in your research methodology chapter. You need to discuss about the validity and reliability of your instruments. And it is very crucial to select the best way to analyze your validity and reliability of your research instrument. All right, so here comes another questions that might bother most of the students. Okay, who is involved in pilot study? Okay, for your information, okay, interestingly, even my students, they did not know that we should not include the real respondents for our pilot study. Do you know that obviously those who are involved in your pilot study is not your respondents for your actual study. Please don't select the same respondents for um, your real study to be part in your pilot study. Okay? Should be in different group of people. But these respondents should be as similar as possible to the respondents for actual study. They should have the same characteristic. They should come from the same population. Okay, same characteristic, for example, their educational background, their prior knowledge, or their socio-economic background should be the same with the real respondents. But please do not select this group of respondents as those in your real study. It should be another group of people. Okay, I hope you are clear on this method. It's very, very important. Okay. So the number of participants recommended for pilot study is influenced by many factors. Okay, during my study, I also have this kind of dilemma. I don't know how many samples should I choose for my pilot study. Okay, and from my reading, the sample size for pilot study is not straightforward. Okay, it's not straightforward given the level of significance and also the desired outcome for the statistical analysis. But when I read through the literature review, this is what I found. Okay, this is from the article written by Johansson and Brooks in 2010. It's some sort of like give us a directions and give us some ideas about how to select, how to choose how many sample for our pilot study. Okay, for example, they list out a few literature from previous researchers. For example, Isaac and Michael in 1995 suggested that samples with population with number between 10 to 30 have many practical advantage. So from this statement, we know that Isaac and Michael suggest sample size of pilot study respondents should be between 10 to 30 people. Okay, not more than 30. Okay, here in 1998, he also suggests to have 10 to 30 participants for pilots in survey research. So if you are conducting survey, okay, you may choose people around 10 to 30 people, 30 participants for your pilot study. Okay, Van Bell in 2002, he suggests the researchers to use at least 12 observations in constructing a confidence interval. Okay, 12 people. Van Bell suggests 12 people. Okay, in 2005, Julius also stated that a minimum of 12 subjects, 12 people per group to be considered for pilot study. So from here, we can conclude that 30 is the maximum number of respondents for your pilot study. and 10 would be the minimum number. Okay, and again, I want to clarify this is for quantitative research, not for qualitative research. Okay, because this session is just meant to discuss about quantitative research, the pilot study for quantitative research. Okay, yes,
Sorry, ma.
yes,
Assalamu
Harun.
alaikum. Yes, it,
Harun, can we get the Q&A session after this?
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, so I will just continue with the slides, can?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so 10 is the minimum number, 30 is the maximum number, right? So if you have control and treatment group, you can have about 10 people for each group. Or you can follow Van Bell or Julius. Suggested by these researchers, you can have at least 12 people for each group. Okay. Okay, this is another, this is the sample size rule of thumb for two group studies. This is another findings, okay, that are found from literature readings. Okay, Burkett and Day, 1994, they suggest about 20 people, suggested 20 for internal pilot studies. Okay, Brown, 30. Kaiser and Wasmer, 20 to 40. Julius, 24, recommended minimum of 12 subjects per group. So if you have two groups, then it should be 24 people. Okay, but this one is maybe for a larger sample size. Okay, for a larger sample size, maybe more than 55 or more than 70. Okay, but from the readings, okay, we can conclude that more or less, most of them stated that it's between 10 to 30. Okay, so next, about validity. So what is validity? Okay. So in your chapter 3, you need to report about pilot study. You need to report the findings of your pilot study. And also you need to report about your instrument stations, including the validity and also the reliability of your research instruments. Here comes the very crucial parts for you to understand about validity and also reliability. First, you need to understand what is validity. Okay, as we all know, validity is an important key to an effective research. Okay, um, you know that if your research instrument is invalid or not valid or not validated, then it is worthless. You need to conduct again your research. So it is obviously time consuming. So please be careful on that, right? And also it provides a clear indicator that the instrument is in fact measures what it's supposed to measure. Okay, I believe if you read a research methodology book, you often see this statement. Validity is a degree to ensure that the instrument is measure what is supposed to measure. So in other words, it deals with the accuracy. It tests the accuracy of your instruments. Okay, if you develop a survey, for example, or you adapt survey from other researchers, so in order for you to ensure your items in the instruments is valid, is accurate, so you need to conduct a validity. Okay, you need to test out. You need to make sure your test or your measurements is validated. Okay, right. So it's a very, very crucial part in your research study. Okay, let's move on. So please remember, validity is about accuracy to ensure that what stated, to ensure that the items, to ensure that the questions stated in your research instruments measure what it's supposed to measure, and it is accurate to be used in your study. So there are few forms of validity in educational research. Okay, bear in mind we have a lot of forms or types of validity in educational research, but these four, or actually these three, okay, this top three is the most used forms of validity in educational research. Okay, the first one is content validity. Second one is criterion validity. And next is construct validity. And the last one is phase validity. So let's move on to each forms or types of validity, okay, in educational research. I believe most of you here are from educational background. Okay, so it is related with educational research. Okay, the first one, content validity. So what is content validity? We usually heard about content validity, but we don't know what content validity is all about. So the name is content. So content validity refers to the degree to which an assessment instrument is relevant, okay, and it represents of the targeted construct it is designed to measure. Okay. Okay, let's say. Okay, let's say I want to design a test to measure my students' ability in learning statistics. Okay, this is your intention. Okay, let's say this is your objective. Okay, this is what you want to do. Okay, I want to design a test to measure my students' ability in learning statistics. So this is the keyword, ability in learning statistics. So you want to design a test, a questionnaire. Okay, so question one, calculate the mean of these samples. So this is just the example. So in question two, the question is like this, calculate the mean of other samples. Question three, also calculate the mean of other samples. It's just mean, calculate the mean. Okay, question number four and question number five, you still want to calculate the mean of other samples. Okay, do you think that this is uh, the correct items to measure your students' ability in learning statistics? We know that learning statistics is a huge topic, right? It covers not just a mean. Okay. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, how about this? Question one. Question is calculate the mean. Question two, calculate the standard deviation. Question number three, calculate the correlation. Question number four, calculate a t-test. And question number five, calculate the ANOVA. So from this type of questions, we know that this type of questions is actually is the correct answer, is the right measures to test your students' ability in learning statistics, because we know statistics is not just for calculating means. Okay, from statistics class, we learn about calculating mean, calculating the SD, calculating correlation, so forth and so on. Okay? Okay, so this is the crucial part. You need to ensure that your items will measure what it's supposed to measure. Okay, in this sense, you want to measure students' ability in learning statistics. Okay, I hope you are clear on that, on the content validity. Okay, I hope you're clear on that. So if you want to give a test to your students, for example, you want to test anything like their programming skills or their higher order thinking skills, so make sure items you provided in your questionnaire really reflects on what you want to measure. Okay. Okay, let's go to criterion validity. Criterion validity is used when you want to assess whether a test reflects a set of abilities in a current or future setting. Okay, so this is different than the content validity. Content validity is straightforward. Okay, just to be sure that your items is reflecting your measurement. Okay, so criterion validity. So let's look at these two types of criterion validity. Okay, The first one is concurrent criterion validity. What does it mean by concurrent criterion validity? Okay, it means the test is used to measure what happens now. Okay, so for example, ask yourself before you design your test, so ask yourself, does this test, so for example, does this test accurately assess my student's current level of ability? So you have a pool of respondents in your mind. You have this, you already declare the criteria of the respondents. If you are using a purposive sampling technique, for example, you have come into the conclusion that these are the sets of criteria of my respondents, and I want to check whether these tests should be able to assess their current level of ability. So you need to, in order for you to assess that, you need to analyze it using these forms of validity. Okay, it is called concurrent criterion validity. It is dealing with what happens here and now. Okay, make sure the test can measure students' ability in the present. Okay, so there are another form of criterion validity. It is called predictive validity. Okay, predictive validity. It deals with the future. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, you have to have this in mind. Does this test accurately assess how my students will do in the final exam? Okay, you must have this kind of intention that you are developing this test, but you want to know whether this test will predict the outcome later. Okay, so for other example, I put here other example for you to understand. Okay, a job applicant takes a performance test during the interview process. Okay, just imagine a job applicant takes a performance test during the interview process. If this test accurately predicts how well the employee will perform on the job, the test this means that if the test accurately predicts how well the employee will perform on the job means in the future, so the test is said to have criterion validity. So that's how it goes. Okay, that is criterion validity. How to evaluate criterion validity? Okay, so to evaluate criterion validity, you need to calculate the correlation by using SPSS. You can calculate the correlation by using SPSS between the result of your measurement and the result of the criterion measurement. Okay, for example, you have this IQ test. You want to test the IQ of your students. Okay, you have this IQ test, and at the same time, you have this newly developed IQ test. Okay, so what you need to do, you give these two set of tests to the respondents in your pilot study, and you analyze by calculating the correlation between these two tests. Okay, by calculating the score between these two tests. So that is how we evaluate the criterion validity. Okay, I hope you're clear on that. So if there is a high correlation, so this gives a good indications. It indicates that your test is measuring what it intends to measure. This is what we call as criterion validity. Okay, so for example, you found this questionnaire or you found the survey to test anxiety level among students on the internet, somewhere on the internet. Okay, and then at the same time, you want to develop a new anxiety level for online learners. Okay, it's for a different, what you call it, different group of people, but more or less, it's quite the same. Maybe you want to take a few items from the original anxiety survey, and you want to adapt in the new one. So you can conduct a criterion validity. Okay. Okay. And then construct validity. So what is construct validity? This is besides content validity, this form of validity is also often used by the researcher in social science field. Okay, so a construct, you need to understand a construct first. What is construct? Okay, a construct is a group of interrelated variables that you care about. Okay, for example, you want to measure students' aggressions. So aggressions might involve physical aggressions. Okay, it involves physical aggressions. It might involve verbal aggressions. Okay, like insulting people. Okay, or it might involve relational aggressions. For example, it might affect the relationship of certain people. So that is aggression. In aggression is a construct. Okay, so there are few variables within that construct, like physical, verbal, and also relational. So it is the interrelated variable within the construct. Okay, so what is construct validity? So a construct validity is the degree to which a test, a scale, measures the construct it claims to measure. Okay, so you need to ask yourself, okay, you have this sets of items in your questionnaire, in your survey, to assess students' aggressions. But you need to ask yourself first, am I really measuring aggressions? Am I really asking the students about their aggressions? Okay. Okay, let's move to the face validity. Okay, face validity. Face validity consider how suitable the content of a test seems to be on the surface. Okay, it's just on the surface. Okay, you have these instruments, but you just focus on the surface. What does it mean by a surface? Okay, it's similar to content validity, but face validity is more informal and subjective assessment. Okay, so for example, the font use, okay, the grammatical error. Okay, so for example, you create a survey to measure the regularity of people's dietary habits. You review the survey items, which ask questions about every meal of the day and snacks eaten in between every day of the week. So on its surface, the survey seems like a good representation of your instruments that you want to test. So you consider it to have a high face validity. Okay, you are not calculating anything. You are just based on your understandings, on your, what you call it, on your guts. Okay, okay, so it's just based from your intention. You say that, okay, I think this items is suitable to measure uh, my instruments. Okay. Okay, so as face validity is subjective measure, it's often considered the weakest form of validity. That's why it's rare to see students use face validity to validate their instruments. Okay, just so you know that. Okay, so we move on to the reliability. Okay, move on to reliability. Previously, I talked about validity. Validity is about the accuracy, ketepatan. In Malay, it's ketepatan, accuracy of the items in your research, in your instruments, okay, in your research instruments. But how about reliability? Okay, what is reliability? When we talk about reliability, it deals with the consistency. Okay, unlike validity, validity deals with accuracy, reliability deals with consistency of measurement over time. Okay, so for example, are the results reliable across time? So for example, you want to conduct your research this year. Okay, how can you sure that your instruments is reliable across time? So for example, like you want to test it out to students next year. You want to conduct this research next year. Okay, how can you be sure that your instruments is reliable? So reliability test is very, very important in your research. It should be included in your chapter 3 as well. Okay, so in conclusion, we can say that these two things, okay, validity and reliability, it determines the quality of your research instruments. Okay, it is to ensure that there should be no issue when you conduct your study. Okay, so if there is any issue, you need to modify. You need to have some fine tuning on your research instruments to ensure that your research instruments is valid and reliable. Okay, to ensure that you can use your instruments to your real study. Okay, if not, then it is worthless. Okay, it will not answer your research objective. So it is a very, very crucial part in your research. So there are few forms of reliability as well. Okay. So for example, first one, it is retest reliability. I think most of you have heard about these forms of reliability. And we also have parallel forms reliability. Okay. Next, we have iterator reliability. And last one is the internal consistency. So these four forms of reliability is the most used forms of reliability in educational research. Okay, let's move forward to retest reliability. Okay, what does it mean by retest reliability? So retest reliability is used when you want to determine whether your test is reliable across time. For example, you have this achievement test, call it as achievement test, to test your students' ability in learning mathematics, for example. So you have prepared what you call as achievement test. Okay, so in achievement test you have this set of questions. Okay, the final score would be 100 marks. Okay, so you record each of the score. Okay, you record each scores from your respondents. So how to conduct test retest? Okay, for example, you give the respondents post-test achievement scores on week 7. For example, you have 7 weeks of intervention. Okay, you carried out your research for 7 weeks. Okay, at the end of the day, on 7 week, you give your students the achievement test to test their knowledge in learning maths. Okay, so in week 7, you record the score of the students. Okay, student 1, the score, for example, is 82 out of 100. Okay, the next time, okay, you give back the same achievement test to the same students. When to give the same achievement test to these students? Okay, remember, this is to test the reliability of the measurement of the achievement test. So that is what we call as retest reliability. We give the test again. That is what we call retest. So when to give the students the test again? Can we give one day after they finish the achievement test on week 7? So for example, we give them on Friday. Can we give the retest on Sunday or on Monday? No, we cannot give them 1 or 2 days after they complete the test. Okay, they might remember their answer. That's the problem. Okay, that will be a problem if you give the test 1 or 2 days just after they finish answer the achievement test. So when is the appropriate time to give your achievement test back to the same group of students? When? Okay, from the readings, from the literature review, it is suggested to give maybe after 2 weeks or after 1 month after they complete the achievement test. Okay, Like for example, you give this group of students achievement test on January. So again, in February, you give the same test to the students and record the score. Okay, student 1, she received 82 marks out of 100 in achievement test during the 7th week. And then next month, you give the same test to the students and the scores is 85. Okay, then student 2, 80 in the first time you give the achievement test, and then the second time the scores is 83. Okay, for example, student 3, first time you give the achievement test, it's 78, and the next month you give the test and he scores 77. Okay, from here we can say that the score is not much different. 82, 85, 80, 83, 78, and 77. If your data look like this, then you might feel a bit relief, okay? Because it indirectly showed that the correlations is high, okay? There's not much difference, meaning that the items in your achievement test is reliable. Even you give the students 1 month after they finish the test, the score is more or less the same. Maybe different is like 3 or 5 marks difference. Okay, so how do you evaluate the retest reliability? How do you evaluate that? So you have the record, you record the data of your student scores, okay, and you need to analyze the correlation as well. You can use SPSS, okay. You need to you need to record the data in SPSS for this group of student scores, time 1 and time 2, the first test and also the second test, and you can conduct Pearson correlation analysis. That's how we evaluate the retest reliability. Okay, and also you need to understand about the correlation coefficient. What is correlation coefficient here? Correlation coefficients. Okay, the value of the test-retest correlation value. This is what we call as test-retest correlation coefficient. It is vary from 0 to 1. Okay, you can get this value if you run a statistical test, a Pearson correlation analysis test in SPSS. So in this scale, a correlation of 0.9 and above would indicate a very high correlation. Okay, you might worry if the post-test score in time 1 is different. The range is quite different from time 1 and time 2. You need to be really worried if the difference is quite large. For example, in time 1 score, the score is 50. Post-test score for time 2, the score is 100. So this indirectly say that your instruments is not reliable over time. Okay, so you need to understand why we conduct a retest reliability, just to ensure that our instruments is reliable. It can be used across time. Okay. Okay. Next is about parallel forms reliability. What does it mean by parallel forms reliability? Okay, sorry. This is not retest reliability. Hold on, let me just change. There's some error. Okay, hold on, yeah. This is parallel forms reliability. Okay, share back the slide. Okay, what is parallel forms reliability? Parallel forms reliability is used when you want to measure the similarity of two different forms of tests. Okay, two different forms of tests. So look at this example. So as a teacher, you prepare two different set of questions to test the student's ability in statistics. Okay, two different set of questions, meaning that in set A, for example, you have 10 questions. In set B, you have 10 questions, but you have two different questions for both forms. Okay, maybe form A, there's a questions about subtopic 1 and 2. Form B also involve questions about subtopic 1 and 2, but the way you represent the question is different. Okay, so in a simple word, you have two different form set of questions. That's it. So the procedure are similar with test, retest, reliability. Okay, it's just that you give the test to the same individual, to the same group of respondents in your pilot study. Okay, so for example, time 1, okay, you give your students a set A questions. Okay, these questions also look into this also measures students' ability in learning statistics. Okay, but you also have another set of questions. It's a different kind of questions. Okay, so the next month you give the different set of questions, but it measures the same thing. Okay, even the form of questions is different, but it measures the same thing. Okay, so you give these two, and how do you evaluate? Okay, it's the same by analyzing the correlation between the tests. You can conduct this analysis in the SPSS software. Okay, what makes it different with test retest reliability is that in parallel forms reliability, the questions are not the same, but it measures the same concept. Okay, still measures students' ability in statistics, but the questions, the way you ask the students might be different. Okay, from one set. Set A is different set of questions, set B is different set of questions. So that's the difference. Okay, in the test retest, you give the same set of questions. Okay, so that's the difference between test retest and also parallel forms reliability. Okay, that's it. That's all the difference. Okay, let's move on. Inter-rater reliability. Okay, what is inter-rater reliability? Okay, the extent to which the scores counted by coders correlate each other. So, for example, you are conducting a research. You are looking into students' types of online interaction. Okay, your intentions to know the types of interactions among the students, and then you have this what we call as coding scheme. So in quantitative research, we also have this kind of approach where we have this coding scheme, and then we do the observation, and we will code it based on the coding scheme that we have. So for example, in my coding scheme, there are few types of interactions. So these are just few. For example, I want to know students' types of interaction in online forum in e-learning. Okay, so I set up a forum and then I discuss with students. There are a lot of learning activities in the e-learning, so I discuss with them in the forum discussion. So based from their interaction, I accept their interaction from the forum, and I quote the statement by the students. If the students, so for example, if the students provide opinion or the students acknowledge something, the statement reflect that kind of things, I will code it as 1. Okay, so For example, the student state that, in my opinion, I think that blah, 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 blah. So I quote that statement as acknowledgement. The type of interaction is acknowledgement. So statement one, this is the example. Let's look at the other table here, the right one, okay, excerpt from forum, statement one, okay. I code it as one, okay. And statement two, this is from the same student, based from the excerpt from the forum. The students eventually ask about something, so I code it as two. It's if the students describe or explain something or evaluate something, I code it as three. So from statement one, statement two, and statement three, I, the researcher, act as the coder one. So I code the statement based from the coding scheme here. Statement one as acknowledgement, statement two as evaluation, and statement three, it reflects, the discussion reflects about asking questions. Students ask questions in the forum discussions. So you cannot feel safe if you think that, I believe that students reflect about acknowledgement because I read the description about acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is something when the students provide opinions, when the students feel something or students experience some things. When they say about this thing, I think that I know they are reflecting on, they are producing a statement that reflect on acknowledgement. Okay. You cannot feel syok sendiri in Malay. Syok sendiri in English, you cannot feel that, I think that's the correct answer. Okay? So you need to have another coder. So you need to find other researcher. Okay, find your friend. Okay, can you be my coder to code my students' respondents in discussion forum? Okay. So if she agree, then you need to belanja lah. You need to give him a token ke apa kan. You need to just give him some gift because he agreed to be the next coder, your next coder. Because you have thousands of data. Okay, believe me, in your research, in your study, if you want to conduct something, like if you want to accept forum or want to accept something from your research, you will have thousands of data. So the other coder need to do that. The other coder need to read the statement from the students, not the 1,000 data. Maybe you just accept only maybe 50 to 100 50 to 100 data from the forum, and then you ask your friends, coder number 2, to code your data. Okay, and then you found out that this is quite different. Okay, your friend said that for statement 1, it's not acknowledgement. Statement 1, students actually asking questions. This is just the example. Okay, so when this happen, what you need to do, you need to test the reliability. Even if this is not happening, if it's the same, if for example coder 1, coder 2 also stated it is 1, you still need to conduct inter-rater reliability. This is what we call inter-rater reliability. We have another rater or another coder to check our data. So how do you evaluate inter-rater reliability? You can evaluate it by using a statistical analysis, by using the SPSS. Then you can get the Cohen kappa value. Okay, it's almost 4, but I want to talk more about this. Okay, maybe if you have a session to to analyze the reliability and validity, it's more good way to do so lah. But we have no time. Okay, so let me just share with you the way to conduct inter-rater reliability. You can use the cross-step analysis by using SPSS. Then you will get the Cohen kappa value. Okay, but then again, you can find in internet as well, in YouTube as well, how to analyze the inter-rater reliability. There is a lot of video. Okay. Okay. Finally, the internal consistency. What is internal consistency? Okay. Internal consistency is used when you want to know whether your items measuring the same construct. Okay, measuring the same construct. In questionnaire or in survey, we have few construct, and in each construct, we have few items. So internal consistency is when you test the items within the same construct. Okay. So to ensure that the items in survey is actually measuring the things that they want to measure in the same construct. Yeah. Okay, for example, you have this survey, you have this questionnaire with a scale of 1 to 4. Usually, 1 indicates strongly disagree and 4 indicates strongly agree to test the anxiety of your students. Okay, so you have this kind of questionnaire, and then you have construct, you have items in construct, and also you have provided the scale of your measurement. Okay, from 1 to 4. Okay, so for example, in anxiety survey, okay, you ask the students to rate your agreement to the following statement. Okay, remember 1 to 4 scale. 1 reflects strongly disagree and 4 reflects strongly agree. So in the anxiety survey, there are few questions. Okay, question 1. Let's look at question 1. I often have worrying thoughts. Okay, this is to test anxiety, remember? Okay. Question 2, I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning. Question 3, I often feel nervous. Question 4, I no longer take pleasure in things I used to enjoy. Question 5, my heart often beats fast as fears enters in. Question 6, I often feel sluggish and tired. Do you think that all of these items reflects or measure anxiety of your students? Do you think so? Okay. Surprisingly, it is not. Question number 1, number 3, and number 4 is, yeah, it measures the anxiety of your students, but question number 2, number 4, and number 6 is actually measuring students' depression. Okay, this one you need to be careful. You need to compare each of the instruments that you found, each of the instruments about anxiety that you read from the journals. You need to ensure that these items reflect the things that they want to measure. So here we have problems with the items because not items is actually measuring the anxiety of the students, because 3 of the items is measuring their depressions instead of anxiety. What are the other problems with these questions? Okay, what are the other problems with these questions? Okay. This is the issue. Okay, when you have one items that focus on 2 different issues. For example, I often feel sluggish and tired. This and here, this is what we call as double-barrel questions. You need to avoid these kind of things. Make sure your items or your questions only focus on one issue. You cannot, so for example, you cannot ask questions like, I am hungry and thirsty. I am hungry and thirsty. What if the students feel like he's just hungry, he's not thirsty? Can he rate disagreement? No, he cannot. So that's why we cannot, these 2 types of issues here in one question. This is what we call as double barrel questions. So you need to avoid this. Okay? So please be careful. So that's why we need to conduct internal consistency. So for example, this reflects the anxiety level of the students. Maybe the students stated that maybe she circled the strongly agree one, the scale 4. Maybe for question 1, 3, and 5, the students tick 4. Okay, but for question number 2, 4, and 6, because he didn't feel this kind of feeling, okay, and he ticked 1. So it's not consistent. Remember, reliability is about consistency. So it's not consistent. This will affect your internal consistency value. So in other words, your items is not consistent. Okay. So how do you evaluate the internal consistency? So a wide variety of statistical tests are available out there, but the most widely used is called the the analysis of Cronbach alpha value. This is the most used one. So you need to analyze using the correlation technique. Okay, so the coefficient correlation again range between 0 and 1. So in this scale, a correlation of 0.7 or 70% or more is considered acceptable. If the value of your internal consistency, if the Cronbach alpha value of your measurement is 0.7 and above, that is considered that your items or your instruments is reliable. Okay, that's it. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all for today. It's 1 hour, exactly 1 hour. Okay, let's stop sharing this. Okay. Right. I think that's all for my session. Okay. Do you have any questions? Maybe I just stop